All right. How's everybody doing today? Hotep. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. All right, so we're live. How's everybody doing today? Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. It is Wednesday, March 8th, 2019, and we're live. Hope everybody's doing well today. Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. All right. Okay, so I want to jump on for a minute, talk very briefly about these topics. I'll talk more about this Sunday night on my show, the African History Network show, on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. All right, but I've been talking about the Mueller Report. Been going through reading it, and I said I ordered the copy of the Mueller Report from the Washington Post with analysis from reporters from the Washington Post. So it just came a few minutes ago. Here it is, the Mueller Report, the Washington Post, presented with related materials by the Washington Post, introduction, analysis by Rosalind Helderman and Matt Zapotosky, okay, and they're writers for the Washington Post. They've been covering this story for months now. All right, so this just came, so I'll be digging into this over the next few days. We'll talk about this on Sunday's show also, and this is taking place now. How many people have actually read the Mueller Report? I'll post a link here where you can get where you can read it for free. This one, so New York Times has it in a searchable document, which is really good. Also, NBCnews.com has the PDF. It's 448 pages. This is more than 448 pages because of the annotations. But this is only $10. It's like $10 and some change. I ordered it from Amazon. It's brand new. Just came out April 30th. It's in brand new condition, so it's not used, of course. And it comes with a table of contents. And let me share this on my Facebook page also. It comes with a table of contents. It also, interesting, because I'm going through and looking at some of the contents here of it. It lets you know who the special counsel's office, lets you know who the key players are in the Mueller report as well. The people who are on Mueller's team, let you know the key players at the Department of Justice, the FBI. So it lays all this information out for you as well to put things in context. Okay. People in the Trump administration. It lays out the key Russians as well. So this is really, really, really good that the Washington Post put this together. And I've been talking about, so the other thing is on page 47, timeline of special counsel's investigation. So they have a timeline of of key milestones in the special counsel's investigation as well. Okay, so they have that also here. Okay, and also African American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network as well. Okay, so they lay all this stuff out here. May 17th, 2017, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert S. Mueller III to serve as special counsel investigating any coordination between Russia and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, as well as any matters that might arise from the investigation. Okay, so they start there. And, so they start there. Now we know also, if you go to NBCnews.com website, and we'll post a link for that, they have an extensive timeline. So this timeline is the beginning of when Special Counsel Robert Mueller was appointed to serve as special counsel. That was May 17, 2017. NBC News, they have if you search for Russian timeline, they have a timeline dealing with the origins of the Russian investigation, okay? Which goes back to George Papadopoulos, okay? It goes back to George Papadopoulos meeting with the Australian diplomat. All right, so you have that as well. And then now something very interesting. Okay, so I was watching the hearings today in the House Judiciary Committee, and we'll try to get some of your comments in here briefly as well. I was watching the hearings today in the House Judiciary Committee to determine whether or not to hold Attorney General William Barr in contempt of court regarding turning over the unredacted Mueller report to members of the House Judiciary Committee, to Congress in general, specifically members of the House Judiciary Committee. All right, how you doing, Ivory, Denise, Jacqueline, Trevor? Okay, Trevor's in the UK watching us. All right, so Trevor's in the UK saying, what the hell is going on with people in the US and Donald Trump? People around the world are looking at this fool wondering what's going on. Okay, so if you've seen some of my other broadcasts, you know I've been talking about the Russian intervention in the 2016 campaign. So the Mueller report is broken up into 2 volumes. Volume 1 deals with the Russian intervention into the 2016 campaign. Volume 2 deals with obstruction of justice. All right, and we'll talk more about this on Sunday night show. So today on Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC, she interviewed the president of the Urban League, okay, Mark Morial. She interviewed Mark Morial because the Urban League just released their 2019 State of the Black America report. And they were talking about the Russian intervention into the 2016 campaign and how Russians specifically targeted African Americans for a disinformation campaign. You had 3,500 Facebook ads that reached about 126 million people. A lot of these ads targeting African Americans. Some of the ads were saying you can vote for Hillary Clinton from your home. They were saying they had a lot of ads that were negative and false towards Hillary Clinton, positive towards Donald Trump. And they were clearly trying to sway the election, and they were targeting African Americans. They were fake Black Lives Matter Facebook pages set up. There was one called Blacktivists. All different types of things like this. Total disinformation campaign designed to suppress the African American vote. TheRoot.com has an article that talks about this as well. And I'll see if I can pull up the article from The Root also. Okay. So, but quickly here, if we look at actually page 2 of volume 1 of the Mueller report, so we've heard Trump and we heard Attorney General William Barr say no collusion, right? Well, what's interesting, if you look at page 2 of the Mueller report, Robert Mueller tells you that they did not investigate collusion. They did not investigate collusion because collusion is not a legal term. Okay, so Robert Mueller on page 2 of the Mueller report said that in evaluating whether evidence about collective action of multiple individuals constituted a crime, we applied the framework of conspiracy law. Conspiracy law, not the concept of collusion. Now, this is Mueller telling you this. They did not investigate collusion. In so doing, the office recognized that the word, quote unquote, collude was used in communications with the acting attorney general, confirming certain aspects of the investigation scope, and that the term has frequently been invoked in public reporting about the investigation. But collusion is not a specific offense or theory of liability found in the United States Code, nor is it a term of art in federal criminal law. So Mueller is saying that collusion doesn't exist in the federal statutes, in federal law. Collusion doesn't exist. So he's telling you that they did not investigate collusion. They investigated criminal conspiracy. So if they did not investigate collusion, then how can Trump and his Attorney General William Barr say there was no collusion? How could you claim that you were exonerated of something that was not investigated? That's like saying you go to the doctor to be tested for chlamydia and you say I don't have syphilis, right? I mean, I hate to put it like that, but you know, I mean, Trump was the one that had unprotected sex with adult film star Stormy Daniels. So you know, I mean, think about it, right? You go to the doctor to be tested for chlamydia, and you say I'm totally exonerated of syphilis. Well, that's not why you went to the doctor, okay? All right, so Mueller goes on to say For those reasons, the officers' focus in analyzing questions of joint criminal liability was on conspiracy as defined in federal law. Now, Attorney General William Barr knew this when he released his 4-page summary on March 24th, 2019. He knew this. And also, that 4-page summary is in the back of the book as well. So this is pretty comprehensive. March 24, 2019, they have the 4-page letter that Attorney General William Barr released to Congress, and it was released to the media. And he said that he said in here that there was no collusion. He said the letter was a political windfall for President Trump. No one else would be indicted. Barr wrote. Let me see. Hold on. Is this the one? Oh, okay. That was a prelude to it. Barr talks about how there was no collusion, and he said that at the press conference also. He mentioned it 4 times. No collusion. Page 2, paragraph 2 and paragraph 4 of the 4-page letter that Barr released were extremely important. Okay. The special counsel's investigation did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. As the report states, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities, end quote. Now, if you see this here, as the report states, if you look at the T has a bracket around it and it's capitalized, which means that it's made to look like that is the beginning of a sentence. But when we saw we came to find out that was not the beginning of the sentence, right? But when you look at, this has a footnote number 1, okay? If you look at the footnote, I've talked about this before, it goes on to explain what does coordination mean. How did the special counsel define coordination? And it says, the footnote says, in assessing potential conspiracy charges, the special counsel also considered whether members of the Trump campaign coordinated with Russian election interference activities. The special counsel defined coordination as an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. Okay, extremely important. Okay, so they were looking for an agreement. So Mueller was saying not that they did not see them operating in a mutually beneficial way. Because when you read the Mueller Report, Volume 1, he lays out various instances of where the Trump campaign and Russians were operating those operating on behalf of the Russian government were operating in a mutually beneficial way. What Mueller was saying is we could not establish an agreement between the two of them, either tacit or expressed. But just because you can't establish an agreement does not mean one did not exist, especially when you see them operating in the open in a mutually beneficial way. Okay, so somebody said that I want to hear what Mueller wrote, not lying Barr. Yeah, well, absolutely. But this is the actual Mueller report right here. So we need to look at what Barr wrote, because what Barr wrote is contradicted by Mueller in the actual Mueller report. This is why Mueller sent the letter to Barr a couple of days after the Mueller report came out, saying that Barr's 4-page summary did not capture the context of the character and the context of the actual Mueller report. Okay, and I'll get the exact language here because I have those notes. We talked about this past Sunday. Just 1 second here. We have it. Okay, quote, the summary letter the department sent to Congress and released to the public late in the afternoon on March 24th did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of this officer's work and conclusions, Mueller wrote. Quote, There is now public confusion. This is in the letter Mueller sent to Barr. There is now public confusion about critical aspects of the results of our investigation. This threatens to undermine a central purpose for which the department appointed the special counsel, to assure full public confidence in the outcome of the investigation. So basically, Mueller is telling William Barr that you're lying. You're lying and mischaracterizing our report. And now people are starting to read it and realize Barr stood there and told bold-faced lies. Okay, how's it going? Sherwin, how's everybody doing? Yeah, he said, I'm waiting for them to hold Barr in contempt of court. Absolutely. He needs to be held in contempt of court. And so does Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary as well. Because Steve Mnuchin is violating Section 6103 of the IRS tax code. The House Judiciary Committee, the chair of the House of the Ways and Means Committee, the chair of the Ways and Means Committee is following the law. He's well within his rights to subpoena Trump's tax returns. He's well within his rights to do that, okay? And Steve Mnuchin is in violation of IRS tax code 6103. Okay, African-American business owners, post your name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast and email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network as well. Our current promotion is get 3 months for the price of one. Okay, get 3 months for the price of one. All right, now, okay, so that's page 2. So you have the stuff that's in here redacted as well. Only about 8 to 10% of the report is actually redacted. Okay, but there's still a lot of valuable information, and we need to pay attention. African Americans really need to pay attention to Section 1. Section 2, dealing with obstruction of justice, is really important too. But in Volume 1, Mueller talks about how Russians targeted African Americans during the 2016 election. So if our vote didn't matter, why were we targeted? For voter suppression by Russians. And if our vote didn't matter, why were we targeted for voter suppression by Republicans as well? Okay, so let me see. Let's look at this again. All right. So back to page 2 of volume 1. For those reasons, the office's focus is in analyzing questions of joint criminal liability was on conspiracy as defined in federal law. In connection with that analysis, we addressed the factual question whether members of the Trump campaign, quote unquote, coordinated, a term that appears in the appointment order, with Russian election interference activities. Like collusion, coordination, quote unquote, coordination does not have a settled definition in federal criminal law. Okay, we understood coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express. An agreement, tacit or express, for coordination. Okay, now they were really investigating criminal conspiracy. All right, an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. That requires more than the two parties taking actions that were informed by or responsive to the other's actions or interests. Okay, let me repeat this. That requires for coordination, which does not have a settled definition in federal criminal law. For them to find coordination, Mueller stated, we understood coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. That requires more than the two parties taking actions that were informed by or responsive to the other's actions or interests. Okay, meaning that we need more than just seeing them operate in a mutually beneficial manner, because we saw that. We saw them operating in the open in the mutually beneficial manner. Not just the Trump campaign, but the transition team and the Trump administration. But Mueller was saying, since we could not establish an agreement between the two of them, then we cannot state that there was coordination. We applied the term coordination in that sense when stating in the report that the investigation did not establish that the Trump campaign coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. Okay, so it's based upon the definition of coordination. That's what that is. It's not saying he's innocent. It's not saying the Trump campaign was innocent. It's not saying the Trump campaign did not operate in a mutually beneficial way with Russia. Not only that, the Mueller report details how the Trump campaign was open to Russian help and benefited from it. They're just saying we can't find an agreement between the two. So I compare this to if you see a news report about a bank robbery that took place, right? Just because if four men go into a bank and rob it, and they leave out the bank, they go in the same direction, get into the same car, and drive off into the sunset. Just because you can't find an agreement between those four bank robbers, either tacit or express, does not mean an agreement does not exist. They show up at the bank at the same time and rob the same bank at the same time on the same day. Now you got 4 or 5 other banks within a 1 mile, 2 mile square radius of that bank. But they all chose that bank at the same time on the same day. They leave and jump into the same car and drive off. Now, just because we can't find an agreement between the two of them, that don't mean that they weren't working together. Are we to believe that the Uber pool showed up at the same time and they all got into the same Uber pool? No. All right, so we have this. So I'll be digging into this. Right, and you can order some. I ordered this from Amazon.com. It was $10. I think $10.40, something like that. Okay, so this is deep. This is a total of 730 pages, 729 pages. Total of 729 pages. Okay, so we got this. Then yesterday, was it May 7th? May 7th, New York Times had a huge story. It's 12 pages. I know it's 12 pages because I printed it up. One of 12, okay? All right, decade in the red, Trump tax figures show over $1 billion in business losses. The big businessman, the big brilliant businessman who wrote The Art of the Deal, which should be called The Art of the Steal. But keep in mind, Donald Trump did not write The Art of the Deal. Art of the Deal came out in 1987. That was Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz was Donald Trump's ghostwriter. Google Tony Schwartz, Art of the Deal. Tony Schwartz has been interviewed numerous times on MSNBC. Donald Trump did not write The Art of the Deal. Tony Schwartz was his ghostwriter. He worked with Trump for about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, on that book. And he was the one who actually wrote The Art of the Deal, okay? And people who follow this know this. All you have to do, Google Tony Schwartz, okay? And also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay the bills, pay for all this paper I got to print, pay for ink cartridges. I just spent about $70 in ink cartridges this past weekend, pay for stuff like this here. PayPal.me/the AHN show, or visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It helps us to finance the Sunday night show also. Okay, so let's dig into this for a minute here. All right, so we all have known that Trump is a fraud and a con man. Washington Post has documented how he's told over 10,400 lies in his first 2 years of his administration. And actually, I got the actual report here from the Washington Post. Where is it? Because I was going through reading that as well. Maybe this Sunday we'll get a chance to talk about that. Where is it? Okay, I'll find it. I had it here. So I was just looking at preparing for a lecture I'm doing Saturday, pre-Mother's Day event here in Detroit, dealing with ancient Africans in America. So I'm preparing for that presentation. But I had the thing from Washington Post. I had that. But oh, here it is right here. Yeah, here it is. Right on top of my information dealing with the Haitian Revolution, because I was talking about that a few days ago. President Trump has made more than 10,000 false or misleading claims. It was actually 10,111 in the first 828 days of his presidency. So this is an article from the Washington Post. Go research this. This is from the fact-checking department at the Washington Post. And they catalog the 10,011 false and misleading claims, and they break it down. That crazy speech he gave April 27th on the campaign at a campaign rally, he made 61 false and misleading claims or lies in that one alone. 61. Okay, so we know that he did not reveal his tax returns. Okay, and the lie that he told was that he was under audit. Going back to about June of 2015, when he announced he was running for president, and subsequently after that, throughout the campaign, he said that he was under audit, and he said that when the audit's over, he'll be happy to release his tax returns. Then, after he won through the Electoral College, because he got 2.8 million fewer votes than Hillary Clinton did, and Trump did not win a majority of the votes or a plurality of the popular vote. Okay, he got, I think, 46% of the popular vote. All right, so he did not win a majority, get over 50%, and he did not win a plurality because Hillary Clinton got more popular votes than he did. So then after he wins, then he and other people, Kellyanne Conway, who's a lying con woman, fraud herself, you have his new acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, who was the director of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. Now you have the narrative, oh, well, this was litigated during the 2016 election. They knew who he was. They voted for him anyway. Well, first of all, people were operating foolishly, I would admit, but operating under the premise, they took him at his word that once the audit was over, he will release his taxes. Two, you can't say it was litigated during the 2016 election because litigation involves law and dealing with courts. Three, 2.8 million more people voted for Hillary Clinton because they didn't want Donald Trump. So you can't say the American people chose Donald Trump because they didn't. That was the Electoral College. So now we have this groundbreaking story from the Washington Post, May 7, 2019. Decade in the red, Trump tax figures show over $1 billion in business losses. So all the news outlets have picked up on this story. And if we look at NBCnews.com, we look at a synopsis from NBCnews.com. Donald Trump, so Donald Trump has responded also. We'll come to that in just a minute. But report, Trump lost more than $1 billion from 1985 to 1994. More than $1 billion. It's actually $1.7 billion. Okay? So we have to understand that people who really understand business, and my degree is in business. I was telling people during the campaign, Trump is not a good businessman. I was telling people Trump is a fraud. Okay? What happened was the TV show The Apprentice, which is a reality TV show, brought him into people's homes each week and presented the facade of a billionaire businessman, wheeler and dealer. He knows what he's doing. It presented the facade. But people who understand business knew this guy was a con man. They knew this was a joke. They knew this was a fraud. The New York Times reported Tuesday that based on tax information the newspaper acquired, Trump did not pay income taxes for 8 of the 10 years it reviewed. Okay? So the New York Times reported that Donald Trump's businesses lost more than $1 billion from 1985 to 1994 based on tax information the newspaper acquired. The New York Times said it acquired printouts from the future president's official IRS tax transcripts including figures from his federal tax form. The New York Times said Trump reported business losses of $46.1 million in 1985 and a total of 1.17 billion in losses for the 10-year period. 1.17. Okay, I think I said 1.7. 1.17. 1.17. Over the course of 10 years. All right, in losses for the 10-year period. All right, so after comparing Trump's information with that of other high-income earners, the New York Times concluded that Trump, quote, appears to have lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer. But this is the guy who was supposed to take America to the promised land. He's the big businessman. He understands business. He knows how to deal with tariffs. He knows how to deal with China. He knows how to do. And if you understand what the tariffs are doing to the economy, it's American citizens that have to pay for the increase in the prices of goods, like washing machines. That hurts American taxpayers. It hurts American farmers, including African American farmers, with his tariffs on soybeans, because China is the number one foreign purchaser of soybeans from American farmers. Okay, so then what Trump did was he set aside $12 billion in aid for farmers who were hurt by his tariffs. But then the payout of that $12 billion was delayed by the 35-day partial government shutdown that he caused because he didn't want to sign off on the budget. He didn't want to sign off on the budget because he was trying to strong arm Congress for billions of dollars to pay for a fake wall that he lied and said Mexico was going to pay for. All this deals with lies dealing with Trump. All this deals with lies dealing with Trump. The 35-day partial government shutdown. Okay? And you had government workers who did not get paid. They had to wait for back pay. But federal contractors don't get back pay. There's no federal statute stating that federal contractors have to get back pay. We know 11.4% of businesses that have contracts with the federal government are African American owned businesses, and we know 18% of federal contractors workers are African American as well. BlackEnterprise.com had an article dealing with this, and I did a broadcast dealing with the impact that Trump's government shutdown was having on African Americans and African American businesses. See, this is why I try to explain to people elections have consequences. People thought the 2016 election was about one person versus another person. I'm like, no. This deals with policies. This deals with laws. This deals with nominations of Attorney General, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Environmental Protection Agency. This has a wide-ranging impact. Let me see if I can find a series of articles, because I'll give you the name of one, and you can go back and watch the broadcast I did dealing with how Trump's government shutdown was hurting African American owned businesses and African Americans in general. Okay, this is done with African American unemployment. Let me see, where is that? I know I have it here. These are all some of my notes, but let's continue. I'll try to find that. Okay, so after comparing Trump's information with that of other high-income earners, the New York Times concluded that Trump, quote, appears to have lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer, end quote. Because of his business losses, the New York Times reported Trump did not pay income taxes for 8 of the 10 years. The House Ways and Means Committee has asked the IRS to provide Trump's personal and business tax returns for 2013 to 2018. Okay, and that's the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin on Monday, May 6th, refused to do so, saying the panel request, quote, lacks a legitimate legislative purpose. No, it doesn't. First of all, it's not up to him to determine that. they're following the IRS tax code 6103. So it's not up to him to determine that. They need to hold him in contempt of court as well, contempt of Congress. Steve Mnuchin's Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's move, which had been expected, is likely to set a legal battle into motion. The chief options available to Democrats are to subpoena the IRS for the returns or to file a lawsuit. Trump is the first president since Watergate to decline to make his tax returns public, right? So people ask the question, well, why was this law put into place, okay, going back to Watergate, going back to Richard Nixon? Okay, why was this, not law, why was this precedence put into place where each president, and people running for president, people get the nomination, they release their tax returns. So it goes back to 1973 when Richard Nixon was under scrutiny and Richard Nixon's taxes were being audited, okay? And there's a famous address that he gives, and he says, well, I am not a crook. And he releases his tax returns during the audit. Money.cnn.com has an article about this. And there are other articles. USA Today has one as well. Okay? Presidential tax returns. It started with Nixon. Will it end with Trump? This is from January 26, 2017. All right? And so what happened was Nixon, okay, here we go. In 1973, while under audit and amid a controversy over his personal taxes, President Richard Nixon released tax returns dating back to when he took office in 1969, because he won the election in November 1968. The scandal led to one of Nixon's most famous quotes. Nixon said, quote, "People have got to know whether or not their president is a crook." This is what Nixon told reporters in November 1973. He goes on to say, quote, "Well, I am not a crook," end quote. So people see that famous quote and they see a little clip of it in the news. Well, I'm not a crook. But they don't know the context. He's talking about his taxes. Okay? So he's under audit. And then what happens is the IRS finds out that he owes about an additional approximately $474,000 in his taxes. Okay? So come to find out he was a crook. All right, let's continue with this, because the one from USA Today goes deeper into it. All right, so since Richard Nixon, every president has released tax returns except for Gerald Ford, who instead made public a decade's worth of summary data about his federal taxes. One of the reasons that Nixon released his returns was that people were saying, hey, how can we trust the IRS to investigate this guy honestly and fairly when he's their boss? Okay, so it underscores the question right now, can the IRS today do this job? And we have to assume that it can, because there is no backstop. Nixon released his returns in response to these sorts of questions. But Trump is not releasing his tax returns in response to these questions. Richard Nixon, even though he was immoral, he still had more respect for the law than Trump does. Trump has absolutely no respect for the law, unless maybe it's on his side. Okay, so there was... okay, so we'll post a link here. Then there was one from the USA Today that went deeper into this. And I'll see if I can pull this up here also. Because what happened is that it is IRS code that each sitting president and each sitting vice president automatically gets their taxes audited. And a lot of people don't know this. All right, I'll see if I can pull this one up here, because I was reading that a couple days ago. So a lot of people don't know this, okay? But that goes back to Nixon in 1973, okay? I think it's statute like 4.2.11 something like that, dealing with IRS tax code. All right, let's see here. Is that coming up? Okay, I have to pull that up from USA Today had that article. But I hear people in the news, I hear talking heads in the news, things like that, that don't know this. Let's post this one link here from CNN.com. How's everybody doing? How you doing? Larry, Renaissance, Rosella. Okay, just a few of the people watching. If you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, or visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, you can set up for a recurring donation if you like. If you want to donate 10, 15, 25, 50, $100, etc. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay the bills, finance the Sunday night show. And then African American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network also. Current promotion, get 3 months for the price of one. All right, okay, so I posted that, and then let me try to find this quickly here. Okay, so while that comes up, let's go to, I'll give you a couple of these articles I dealt with, and go watch the video that I did dealing with the government shutdown and how it impacted African Americans, okay? How negatively impacted African Americans. BlackEnterprise.com had an article, the government shutdown may destroy many black businesses and budding entrepreneurs. This is from January 17, 2019. The government shutdown may destroy many black businesses and budding entrepreneurs. And then there was one from the Griot, but one from NPR.org also. Okay, so this one from the Griot picked up on the one from NPR.org, National Public Radio. And let's see here. They talk about, in this article, it's entitled, Experts State That the Shutdown Has Deeply Affected Black Families. This is from January 16, 2019. Experts state that the shutdown has deeply affected black families. Okay? And in the article, they talk about how also noted that there is no precedent for government contractors to receive back pay when the shutdown ends. Thus, no one fully knows if they will receive income for the weeks that they were furloughed. And since black-owned firms make up 11.7% of registered federal contractors, by and large, these minority companies are going to be hit harder than others. African-American firms, businesses make up 11.7% of registered federal contractors. All right. Now, they are, let's see, African-Americans are about 18% of federal employees also. Let me see. There was one from the, yeah, here. Okay, so in National Public Radio had a big article. They had a big article entitled Barely Treading Water, while the shutdown disproportionately affects black Americans. This is from January 14th, 2019, written by Ari Shapiro from NPR.org, National Public Radio. Okay, barely treading water, while the shutdown disproportionately affects black Americans. All right, so this is an example of how elections have consequences. All right, so African Americans are about 10.5% of the civilian labor force, but 18.4% of federal employees. According to data from the Office of Personnel Management, the share of federal workers who are African American women is roughly twice as high in the federal government as it is in the greater civilian workforce. Okay, so the share of African American women who are federal employees is twice as high as their representation in the civilian workforce. So when you talk about a partial government shutdown, you're talking about this disproportionately impacting African American families. Okay? You're talking about African American women who are heads of households in about 80% of African American families. But not only that, what if you are a father and you're 70 and your daughter is well, you could have more than one daughter. You can have a daughter 25, one 35. They both work for the federal government. They're calling you daddy. Can I borrow some money to this partial government shutdown is over with? Right? That's real talk. Because they already you may have already co-signed for their apartments, and they may already be on your car insurance. They may already be using your Netflix passcode. Right? They may already be on your Verizon account, your Sprint account. Because federal employees in general, they don't get paid a whole lot of money. So things like this disproportionately negatively impact African Americans. This is because of one jackass and his accomplice in the U.S. Senate, Mitch McConnell, son of a Mitch. I got 99 problems and a Mitch is one. Right? I got 99 problems and a Mitch is one. Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky. Okay? All right, so this won't be new to anyone who studies race in America or is cognizant of how it works, but is going to disproportionately affect African American women. So this is the article from Ari Shapiro, January 14, 2019. And you wonder why African American women are pushing their issues and galvanizing support and talking about voting in 2020. They understand how all this stuff impacts them. They understand elections have consequences. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and a writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. This is what politics is. They understand how this stuff impacts them. Impacts African American men as well, absolutely. But African American women are seeing up close and personal how this stuff impacts them. Okay? All right. Okay, so we have Alton, we have Torrance. Okay, how's everybody doing? So check out this article. We'll post some of these links when we're done also. I'm trying to pull all this stuff up at one time. There was one from the USA Today dealing with Nixon. And there's a really good one. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. This is running a little slowly. But one, people don't understand why. Most people don't know that a sitting president's taxes and a sitting vice president's taxes automatically get audited. And that was because of what happened with Nixon in 1973. So that's part of IRS tax code. They automatically get audited. So now with the 2019 taxes, if I remember correctly, Trump filed an extension, at least on his personal taxes. It's possible that some years or some recent years since he's been in office are under audit, but he can release the years that are not under audit. And he can release his taxes, period, whether it's an audit or not, because that's what Nixon did. There's no law stating that you can't release your taxes while you're under audit. He can do that. The years that are not under audit, he can release those also. He won't do it. There are a number of reasons why he doesn't want people to see his tax returns. Okay, and the question is coming up now. They say, well, wait a second. With all this debt, right? Where did he get the money from to lose all this money? That's one of the questions. You lost $1 billion in 10 years. Where'd you get $1 billion from to lose $1 billion? One other article. It feels like we are still hostages. Federal contractors who lost health insurance during shutdown remain in limbo. And these were African Americans they were talking about, because this is an African American owned business called Unispec Enterprises that could not afford to pay for the employees' health insurance because they were a federal contractor and they were not getting paid for a month. So this talks about the impact of this. This is from the Washington Post. Read this article, January 27, 2019. It feels like we are still hostages. Federal contractors who lost health insurance during shutdown remain in limbo. So when Trump talks about 3.6% unemployment rate and a low unemployment rate for African Americans, he ain't taking all this stuff into account. Not only that, if you look at reports, USA Today had an article, the Root.com had an article as well. The African Americans have they are almost twice as likely to be unemployed than white people are. And Trump doesn't want to deal with that. He also doesn't want to deal with the fact that African American women make 63 cents for every dollar that a white man makes. It takes African American women on average 20 months to make the same amount of money that a white man makes in 12 months. So if you're talking about what are you going to do for African Americans, why aren't you addressing any of these issues? Why aren't you talking about any of this? All right, let's see if we can pull this up. This was USA Today. Let's see here. I may have to post this afterwards because this is running a little slowly. Let me see if I can pull this up quickly here. How's everybody doing? But there's a really good article from the USA Today that dealt with this history dealing with taxes and Nixon. What this all goes back to. Okay, why is unemployment for blacks 86% higher than the U.S. average? Okay, this is from USA Today. Why is unemployment for blacks 86% higher than the U.S. average? The Bureau of Labor Statistics employment situation data for April 2019 appeared to contain nothing but good news. Unemployment dropped to the lowest since December 1969 as it fell to 3.6%. Okay, but then it starts talking about African Americans, and this is something that gets totally lost in the sauce. All right, let's see if this will come up here. Hold on. I just saw the article, and because I think I had it. I was going to try to talk about it on this past Sunday show, but ran out of time. Okay, Nicole, how you doing, Nicole? Wayman, hello from Namibia. Okay, so we have people all over the world watching this. How you doing, Wayman, in Namibia? Brother from the continent. All right, what's going on in Namibia, brother? All right, so let's look at the... So we talked about the initial report, NBCnews.com has an article about the initial report dealing with Trump's taxes. And New York Times said by the time his Master of the Universe memoir, The Art of the Deal, written by Tony Schwartz, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not write The Art of the Deal. There's no evidence that Donald Trump even reads books. Okay? By the time The Art of the Deal hit bookstores in 1987, Donald Trump was already in deep financial distress, losing tens of millions of dollars on troubled business deals, according to previously unrevealed figures from his federal income tax returns. Donald Trump was propelled to the presidency in part by a self-spun narrative of business success and of setbacks triumphantly overcome. He had, now keep in mind, it was his daddy bailing him out time and time again. His daddy was the big businessman, not Donald Trump. His daddy would bail him out, he'd go out and screw up again. His daddy bails him out, he goes out and screws up again. This guy's a joke. He has attributed his first run of reversals and bankruptcies to the recession that took hold in 1990, but 10 years of tax information obtained by the New York Times paints a different and far bleaker picture of his deal-making abilities and financial condition. The data printouts from Trump's official IRS tax transcripts with the figures from his federal tax form, the 1040 for the years 1985 to 1994, represents the fullest and most detailed look to date at the president's taxes, information he has kept from public view. Why was he hiding this from public view? If you're so wealthy, if you're the big businessman, if you the art of the deal, if you're so brilliant, why are you hiding this? You only hide something that you don't want people to know about. Why are you hiding this? Though the information does not cover the tax years at the center of an escalating battle between the Trump administration and Congress, it traces the most tumultuous chapter in a long business career, an era of fevered acquisition and spectacular collapse. Fevered acquisition and spectacular collapse. So the numbers show that in 1985, Donald Trump reported losses of $46.1 million from his core businesses, largely casinos, hotels, and retail space and apartment buildings. They continue to lose money every year, totaling $1,170,000,000 in losses for the decade. In fact, year after year, Donald Trump appears to have lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer. So you mean to tell me the guy who lost more money than any other individual taxpayer for 10 years becomes president because of the facade of a reality TV show showing him as being the big businessman? This is how elections have consequences. This is also the propaganda of the media. This is the power of the media. Malcolm X said the media is the most powerful entity on earth. He said the media is the most powerful entity on earth. It'll have you. It'll make you think the guilty are innocent and the innocent are guilty. Something to that effect. He also talked about one about newspapers as well. But this is the power of the media, okay? Empowers the ability to define and shape reality and accept other people's definition of reality as if it were their own. This is the power of the media. So, in fact, year after year, Trump appears to have lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer. The New York Times found when it compared his results with detailed information the IRS compiles on an annual sampling of high-income earners, his core business losses in 1990 and 1991, more than $250 million each year. More than $250 million each year in 1990 and 1991 were more than double the losses of the nearest taxpayers in the IRS information for those years. So this guy is what, a 10-time loser almost? Overall, Trump lost so much money that he was able to avoid paying taxes for 8 of the 10 years. It is not known whether the IRS later required changes after audits. It is not known whether the IRS later required changes after audits. Since the 2016 presidential campaign, journalists at the New York Times and elsewhere have been trying to piece together Donald Trump's complex and concealed finances. While the New York Times did not obtain the president's actual tax returns, it received the information contained in the returns from someone who had legal access to it. Somebody dropped a dime on Trump. I hope more dimes keep dropping. The Times was then able to find matching results in the IRS information on top earners, a publicly available database that each year comprises a 1/3 sampling of those taxpayers, with identifying details removed. It also confirms significant findings using other public documents, along with confidential Trump family tax and financial records from the New York Times 2018 investigation into the origin of Donald Trump's wealth. This is a deep report, man. They're going to win a Pulitzer for this. Russ Boutner and Susan Craig, May 7, 2019. Decade in the red. Trump's tax figures show over $1 billion in business losses. Okay, this is deep. You got to read this. We'll post a link to the full article here. Yeah, I have it up already. Decade in the red. You have to read this. And remember, see, when Trump was running, he talked about being the king of debt. I guess he is the king of debt because he's blown up the national debt from about a little less than 20 trillion up to 22 trillion. He's blown a hole. His $1.4 trillion tax cut, largely to the rich, has blown a hole in the budget deficit. Okay, added at least $800 billion to the budget deficit. I guess he is the king of debt. He wasn't lying when he said that. Okay, Darlene, how you doing, Darlene? Kim, how you doing, Kim Robinson? All right, so we'll post some of these links here after we're done as well. And I was trying to find, let me try to find this one here from USA Today, because I was looking at one dealing with Nixon and the origin of all of this. And it deals with going back to 1973 and Richard Nixon's taxes and why, and the fact that a president's taxes are automatically audited. All right, let me see if I can pull this up here just a second. That was one. All right, African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We have a few more spots. Current promotion, get 3 months for the price of one. Now, My Econ is an African American owned business. And John L. Ray is the executive vice president of My Econ, which is a personal financial success company. Now, do you know what income shifting is? Income shifting is where you take your money back from those who are taking it from you. That's thousands of dollars a year saved, plus My Econ can show you how to earn more money. Income shifting is also a group of financial strategies that help to take John L. Ray from living from paycheck to paycheck to investing and not focusing on where the next check is coming from. All right, visit his website for more information. Workingwithjohnray.com. Workingwithjohnray.com. You can also give him a call, 248-929-2447, 248-929-2447. That's workingwithjohnray.com. Also, you know, Mother's Day is coming up, and you can get something for mom or that special woman in your life from darkmagentas.com. MAGENTAS, darkmagentas.com. Now, Dark Magenta specializes in creating home spa products based on nature's healing and soothing properties. Dark Magenta carries essential oil and cannabidiol infused bath bombs, shower steamers, sugar scrubs, and soaps. They include oils and herbs such as lavender, rosemary, eucalyptus, sage, cedarwood, oatmeal, shea butter, cannabidiol, and more. They also carry oil diffusers and 100% pure essential oils. Visit their website, darkmagentas.com, MAGENTAS, and indulge in these treats for the body and the mind. Okay, how you doing, Cynthia, Darlene? Just a few of the people watching. And let me see if I can pull one of these other articles here. The president always gets audited and the Veep too. Okay, the president, this is one of the ones I looked at. The president always gets audited and the Veep too. This is from CNN, money.cnn.com, money.cnn.com, April 17, 2017. The president always gets audited and the Veep too. This is by Jian Sahidi, okay, for money.cnn.com. And in the art, let's see here. Just a second, this is freezing up. All right. Okay, we'll continue. I have to wait for this running slow. Okay. So IRS audits of individuals are, okay, let me skip past that. For the U.S. president and the vice president, an audit is guaranteed every year. For the U.S. president and vice president, an audit is guaranteed every year. The practice of doing a mandatory examination of the presidential and vice presidential tax returns has been in the Internal Revenue Internal Revenue Service manual since the Watergate era, according to the IRS. Both President Nixon and Vice President Spiro T. Agnew became embroiled in personal tax controversies around the same time that the Watergate scandal was unfolding. Spiro T. Agnew, his vice president, ended up resigning after admitting to tax evasion. Keep in mind, I've talked about this before. When you study Watergate, Spiro T. Agnew, who was Richard Nixon's first vice president, because when he resigns, it's going to be Gerald Ford who becomes vice president. Spiro T. Agnew was forced to resign from office 8 months before Richard Nixon resigned from office. Spiro T. Agnew had to resign because of tax evasion charges and corruption charges. And he was the vice president. So if for some reason Mike Pence has to resign or forced out, we've seen this before. This is not new. This is why history is so important. And, people's history teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past and the present and the future to meet the needs of the community. So, let's see. Okay, let's continue. So the IRS manual makes it clear individual income tax returns for the president and vice president, quote, are subject to mandatory examinations, end quote, subject to mandatory examinations, all right? Now, there's no law that requires Trump to disclose his tax returns since the papers are considered private information, but there's also no law that says he can't release them, okay? Let's see here, Nixon. Oh, yeah, but this goes back to Nixon, and Nixon was found to owe like an additional $474,000 in taxes, something like that. Okay, so in 1973, while under audit and amid a controversy over his personal taxes, Nixon released returns dating back to when he was in office in '69. Okay, let me see something here. All right, that's the other article. Let's go back to this one here. Okay, going back to the Watergate era. Yeah, but a sitting president is automatically has the sitting president and sitting vice president automatically have their tax returns audited by the IRS. Okay, so there was another article. I think I looked at this. Yeah, this one here. This is one I looked at. I need the book. I thought I had this bookmark. I have thousands and thousands of articles bookmarked, and sometimes they don't take correctly. Nixon released his tax returns under audit. Why can't Trump? May 11th, 2016. This is about 6 months before the election. Okay? Most Americans don't know that a sitting president and a sitting vice president automatically get their taxes audited. Let me post a link of this article here. This is from money.cnn.com. Most talk show hosts, most commentators on MSNBC have not said this. Now, I've heard Rachel Maddow say this. Most of them have not said this. Most people don't know this. Most American citizens don't know this. Okay, Melvin said it can be uploaded for free. What are you talking about, Melvin? What can be uploaded for free? All right. Donald Trump once said he won't release his tax return because they're under audit. Okay, we know that. He indicated in the Associated Press story. This is from 2016. This is from May 11, 2016. Yet here's the thing. There's nothing preventing Trump from releasing his tax returns now. Not the IRS, not law, not even the president. Turns out Richard Nixon publicly released his tax returns while they were under audit in 1973 at the height of the Watergate investigation. But Watergate was not the reason. According to tax historian Joe Thorndike, in the summer and fall of that year, 1973, quote, Nixon was engulfed by controversy over his personal taxes. An outsized charitable donation was the proximate cause, but the scandal expanded to include numerous issues with the returns Richard Nixon had filed between 1968 and 1972. Joe Thorndike noted in a soon-to-be published paper. Interestingly, it was that very tax controversy, not the Watergate scandal, that gave rise to one of Nixon's most famous quotes, Joe Thorndike found. Quote, people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook, Richard Nixon told reporters in November 1973. Quote, well, I am not a crook, end quote. That was all dealing with his taxes, not Watergate. People hear that excerpt, well, I'm not a crook, they think it was about Watergate. No, it's about his taxes. So Nixon went so far as to invite Joint Committee on Taxation, to invite the Joint Committee on Taxation to also examine his tax returns. Okay? It did, and found Nixon owed another $476,431, or about $2.5 million in today's dollars. The IRS came to a similar conclusion. So the Joint Committee on Taxation found that Nixon owed an additional $476,000. So they found out he was a crook. Okay? So this is why, because of that, that's why that's why it's tax code, in the tax code, a sitting president and a sitting vice president are automatically audited. Their tax returns are automatically audited. Okay, so it's certain. But back to Trump. Okay, she said, it's certainly understandable why someone, a public figure with a complicated financial life, no less, would not want to release his tax returns, especially when they are under audit. After all, why invite the added scrutiny from tax experts coast to coast? Okay, especially when you're trying to hide something, especially when you're a criminal and you're trying to hide something. Okay. Yeah, so especially with something like that. Now the problem with that argument, though, is that Trump is applying for the biggest and arguably most important job in the world. And the requirement of that job in modern times is transparency. While not required by law, full tax return disclosures have come to be expected of presidential nominees, as well as every sitting president, audit or no. Okay. All right. So you can check out the rest. You can check out the rest of this. But a lot of people don't know that sitting presidents and sitting vice presidents automatically get audited by the IRS. Okay. All right. Let me see. I'm trying to post this. Hold on. Okay, how's everybody doing today? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page and invite your friends to tune in also. All right, who we have here? Melvin. Okay. And let me post this link here for you as well, because this is the article I was trying to find. This is from money.cnn.com. Nixon released his tax returns under audit. Why can't Trump? Okay, so we posted that there. Who else we have here? All right. Okay, and then also if you like this type of information, you can register for the online courses that I teach. We have them all on demand. They're in a 10-course online bundle pack. It includes Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach in school. That's a 14-hour, 7-session online course that I teach. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. That's on sale $40, regularly $130. We have it at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll post a link here also. And it's all on demand. Watch at your own pace. You stream it. You can watch them around the world. So even in Namibia, you can watch it. And it also includes Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization, and some other online classes I've done also. It's a 10-course online bundle pack, okay? All right. So look, hey, we have to get out of here. Hey, remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself. and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Be sure to listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF. We also broadcast here on our Facebook fan page. And then Saturday, May 11th, the keynote speaker at the Pre-Mother's Day African Ball. The Pre-Mother's Day African Ball in Detroit, 6 p.m. to, I guess, about midnight. Saturday, May 11th, 2019, at the International Institute, 111 East Kirby Street in Detroit. There'll be dinner and dancing, African and vegetarian food included, cultural dancers and drummers. There'll be a prize for Best African Attire. Also, I'll be presenting on Ancient Africans in America and Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization. There'll be live performances, live musical performances by the Odu Afrobeat Orchestra, starring Adeboye. So this is the Pre-Mother's Day African Ball. Tickets are $40. For tickets and information, please call 313-717-5578, 313-717-5578, or 313-603-1340, 313-603-1340. And this is on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, also AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And then on Sunday, May 12th, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the same location as a Mother's Day African Luncheon. Tickets are $25. There'll be traditional African and vegetarian food. Queen Mother Oshandara is the hostess. And there'll be a special presentation by Sister Nubia Wardford, who is an African-American female archaeologist who does archaeological research and digs in the Sudan. And she'll be doing a fantastic presentation showing some of her archaeological research called Queendoms of Kush. Queendoms of Kush, okay, K-U-S-H. All right, so we'll have that at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you've been taught about yourself. Right now, it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.